All right, so for now, because I want to rearrange this original stuff before I put the new stuff in, I'm going to put the cover on temporarily so I can pick it up easier and not worry about anything falling the wrong way out. Now that I think about it, probably should have fed it after I moved it, but I didn't. Okay, so this is my original bin, and you can see it hasn't been fed in a month. Yeah, it's just about a month, and like this Brussels sprout like will not break down, but like, oh, there's obviously somebody trying really hard. And there's some eggshells, which again, we're trying to make this easy for ourselves, folks, not harder. So I know they're there, but I'm okay with them going in my garden like that. So there's definitely like some folks still here, so I don't feel comfortable harvesting it, but it's also still really wet, like really wet. So, and there's plenty, like, look, there's still guys in here, so I know that there's still food. It's still available for anybody who wants to live maybe a less populated life. But like, look, hello friends, I'm sorry I disrupted you, but like, look how great some of this is going to be when it dries up. So feeling really good about it. So this is going to be, I think, one of our top bins. I think I'm going to try that. I really think that if I put it on top, it'll help the moisture drip down. I hope that's how this works. I think it is. So for now, I'm going to pick that up, put it on my chest freezer. I'm going to take our former tier 2, make it tier 1. Let's do this. Okay. Ooh. And that might be why it's so wet. So I think for now, I will switch this focus to pulling. Oh, there's multiple worms in here. Okay, we're gonna get them, guys. Don't worry. Okay, so oops. Okay, that's been going for a few minutes. So I am gonna switch over to this stuff and prep these bins while that's going on. I will say though that I don't know if you can tell, it's really hard to see, but I promise, like look how, okay, there it is. See how wet all that stuff was? That must have meant that was dripping into here, which is why this wasn't draining out or drying out, I suppose. So it also goes back to like the whole overfeeding, I guess, that I did, or putting like extra juicy stuff in, because that whole time that I had my first tier up and running, I only had to empty that bottom thing one time, and it was when I was migrating, and it was definitely, I don't know, it could have been that full, but I don't think it was quite that full. So anyways, I'm gonna let this continue to drain. But this, I'm just doing this on my floor, and these are literally the same tiers. So I am gonna do this really quick because I feel like you guys probably have already seen this, but it's super simple. You put half of this in each one, or like one half of this goes in here and the other half goes in here, and then you mix half of this in. If this was going to be your bottom layer and you were setting this up for the first time, they recommend you put like a sheet of newspaper or something over the bottom so the worms that are still kind of getting used to their new surroundings don't go down until everything kind of gets a little more compact. But these are going to be higher up tiers, so not worried about it. Okay, well, this is an interesting turn of events. So this did not happen the first time I pulled the juices out of here. So I'm assuming, this goes back to maybe my overfeeding or something, but you can see how the drain is like really slow. And I took my little mixer upper and I kind of was like scooping, and I could see that there's kind of like a sludge of some sort in here, which is clearly slowing down the drain. So I am going to take this out. I think I'm just gonna turn off the, I don't know, the spigot, and I think I'm gonna just take this out to the yard and just take the hose and kind of like, I would say pressure wash it, but definitely give it a good rinse. Okay, rinsed it out, popped this drain out and super easy, got all the sludge out, saved a few worms. I'm gonna put this tray that we fed earlier into the bottom because I want the food based ones to be at the bottom so the moisture can dry out the top one like this one. So let's throw this guy in really quick. Okay, so one of my paper towels that I was gonna rip up and just throw in, I decided to wipe the edges down to make sure that the next tier could lay completely flat and I don't have to worry about creatures escaping in from the sides or entering from the sides, which maybe that's part of the problem. Maybe my bins are just too full in that sense, but I don't know. So the next bin that is going to go in is going to be one of the new ones with the worms. Okay, so we got the box up. I wiped down the edges. Got them in here like this, nice and flat. Now I have the worms. I've had them for about an hour now. Let's say hi to our new worm friends. So these have been in transit for close to 4 days. So they're probably hungry, probably want some food and water. Probably don't want to be in the heat. So let's go take a look at them and say hi. Hey worms, where are your new friends? Okay, there's quite a bit of them in here. I mean, it's 250, but it's really hard to tell. But I think these look pretty great. I hope I can keep them nice and healthy, but there's a lot of guys in here. So feeling good about this. They look very healthy, lots of activity. So I'm gonna let them just kind of do their thing, and I'm just gonna spread them out. Not to bury them, but just so it's easier for them to get, you know, into the, I'll say the moist area, the area we just watered, because I know they don't like light, and I know they're probably like terrified of what's going on right now. I'm also trying to create an area that they're like, I'm pushing them to the side a little bit because I don't want to dump food onto them if I can. So we're just gently making ourselves a little feeding area, and I don't want to go too down into the base there because I want to create kind of a solid layer of, I don't know, compost right away in the middle, so we know that that's kind of like a solid area. So I'm going to give them a minute or two to kind of wriggle around, but while they're doing that, I'm going to go back to this bin that's breaking down, and I'm going to take a scoopful of the compost that's in here and mix it in here because I read that that's really good for the bin, and I forgot to do that when I was switching bins last time. As if you guys might not have noticed already, I went to grab a spoon and I was like, oh, you would think this is like branded for the hot frog, but nope, I just really like green, and apparently I really like lime green. So this is that original tier we were looking at earlier, and I'm trying to get kind of in the corner where I know there's not a lot of, not that there's a lot of food in here, but like, you know, not as many potato peelings, and it's more like legit, just straight up composty goodness in here. So let's take that and let's see how we sprinkle it on. I don't know if that's enough. I've never done this really before with any, like, I don't really understand how this works, so we'll just take this. Oh, okay, a welcoming committee from your previous worm bin. Cool. So we'll just kind of lightly put that in there. So there's plenty of microbes that we know are in there. And that's fine. Like, you can tell here, like, I just took like scoops out of here. So I'm just gonna let this all kind of even out. Again, while I have my big fancy spoon. So fancy. And a lot of this chunky stuff at the top I recognize as like potato peelings of various kinds. And like, this is a banana stem, like the stem that's still fibrous a little bit. But, you know, if the potato peelings are like, oh, here we got an avocado peel in here, I don't care if that goes in the yard. That's just That's just nutrients going straight back in, so I'm not worried about it. Okay, and if you're new to my channel, I always look at this back area so we can kind of say like, okay, how full is the bin? You know, so we can tell kind of where we started. As it goes down, we can see how the feedings are processed. If they're, you know, if I feed it and it's up to here, but that's mostly because of the fluff and cover. But then next week when I check on it, it's back down here. Like maybe we feed them more, maybe we feed them less. You know, it's just a good way to kind of gauge how full your bin is. All right, so this is going to be fed, but I don't think I'm going to feed it much more than this that was left from before, because one, I think this is probably a bit much, but two, they're probably hungry, but this is already starting to break down. And three, I'm going to try to spread out how often I feed them so they might be less overfed as quickly. Ooh, that's some stinky stuff. Like this has been in here for probably like a week and a half now. Mostly bananas, which I know are a big favorite, and they also kind of break down on their own quicker, but there's also like a banana stem, which is a little bit more fibrous, which will take them a little bit longer. So they'll always have, I mean, not that we're not going to feed them again anytime soon, but I'm just going to cover the food. Sorry, worms, not trying to relocate you. I know you just got in there. But also, I think for good measure, I am going to put some extra bedding on the, just in the middle portion, because, I mean, that stuff, whew, it stinks. I don't normally let it sit out on the counter. Like it was sealed, but it was still on the counter sealed. And you know, in Florida, it's 80s, mid 80s, low 90s right now. So it can get warm in here. So putting some extra bedding over the food portion of it. You can still see a little banana over here. Just the food portion, because one, that'll help pull up any extra moisture that might drip down later from the bins above, i.e. the one that wasn't draining because the drain was too full. But two, I plan on dumping that extra coconut coir in on that top layer like we talked about earlier, so I think there's going to be a lot of fluid flowing through here. So our new bin is filled. And then the next bin to go on is this one that is drying out, that's still breaking down. So we'll put him on here next. Okay, so now we have our box here, all nice and ready to go. And I think I'm just gonna leave this as is. Not planning on changing anything, but I do want to just clean up the edges and take this opportunity to make sure the contact is good, since there's going to be something stacked on it again. So there's that. And then the second of the new trays is going to go in. All right, maybe you shouldn't have touched it with my dirty hands. And then that's it. That is our new expansions put in, and I'm pretty pleased with it. I mean, it took a little while because I was a little slow and I'm trying to troubleshoot things as I go, but I'm gonna dump this stuff back into some earth boxes and see how they do. And yeah, I'm really excited. I think if you're gonna be watching the feedings moving forward, I might do a check-in on this layer here, this new one, but I don't think I'll feed it right away. So instead of the normal 7-day updates, look for maybe more like 10-day updates in the future. We'll see, but definitely some check-ins. Whew, that was a lot. Thanks for hanging in if you watched this far. I appreciate it. I hope you learned something. I know there's a lot of videos that show how to do it really quick and cut out all the parts in between, but I feel like I'm somebody who appreciates those parts because there's little tidbits and pieces that you pick up along the way. And so if you're one of those people as well, I hope you benefited from it. If you guys want to see more Moose and more Wally, the Instagram links are down below. They're often on my gardening Instagram page, but they also have their own Instagram page. So if you need some cuteness in your feed, make sure you follow our Fluffy Wally. All right, guys, until next time.